Greeting interwebs, this is Jackie K, and welcome for the closing thoughts of the Pokemon XG Next Gen playthrough. First and foremost, before all that, we finally beat the 100th battle of Mount Battle, and got to pick from one of the three mythicals. I went with the Mew here, because while it's got some cool moves, it did remind me of a feature that is in the vanilla XD, and still seems to be in XG as well. A move tutor specific to Mew that only appears if you have a Mew in your party. Searching for all this time. Mew is the only Pokemon that can learn every single move I teach. Yep, every one of the 100 I teach. If you'd like, I could teach you Mew some moves right now. Since it is your Mew I'll be teaching, I should pick the moves to fit your style. I'll need your help, just a little. I'll ask 5 questions, and I want you to pick the answer that best suits you for each of the questions. That's it. If you like the 4 moves I pick out, I can teach them to you for 5,000 Poke Coupons. Sure, we got some to burn, and if I don't like the move set, then I can just reset. Question 1. What are Pokemon to you? Friends. I see. How would you like your Mew to be? A kind Mew. What kind of trainer are you? It depends on how ambitious I'm feeling that day on GBL. But in general, no giving up to the end. Alright, next question. Professor Crane... I'm sorry, Crane, but this isn't even a competition. Snail or Gordon, which is the smart one? Where's the none of the above? Guess I'll go with Snail if I have to pick one. Oh! I was thinking it might be different, but I wasn't thinking that it'd be like, I wasn't expecting to actually get Shadow moves in there. So we got Shadow Madness, Tail Glow, Flare Blitz, and Icy Wind. I think I'll go with this because I think it's the only way I'll ever be able to have a Shadow move on a Purified Pokemon. How about choosing? Wouldn't it have to be the Mew? I guess technically in a weird world, especially in Vanilla XD, you could technically trade over more than one Mew. That Pokemon can't be taught any moves. Sure. Mew will forget all the moves it knows now. Are you sure that's okay? I forget what I had. I was a little hesitant getting rid of it, but screw it. Done, your move has learned a complete set of 4 moves. Yeah, we didn't even need to move the leader's help for that. That is like kinda nuts. Let's see what we get this time. Ice Punch, Fire Punch, Zen Headbutt, Thunder Punch. It's funny, but it's no Shadow Blast. Sure. What do we get for Weird Mew? Which one is bad, Cyper or Snag'em Game? I really like my previous move because V-Create on a Mew, it's just way too tempting. I don't know what to make of this move pool, but I think I did specifically say I wanted a weird Mew. Okay, that's enough messing around for now. As I did mention, as much as I would have loved to end the series on Mount Battle, there are some final things that we gotta take care of before I can officially bid adieu to this series. Like purifying the last of those shadow Pokemon we got. Just to assure that Lugia is the very last thing, I'll just put it in the purification chamber later. I guess to start with my overall thoughts for now, with the post-game, I did appreciate everything that they added specifically towards the post-game. It did help beef it out and make it a bit more interesting than the post-game in the original Pokemon XD. We'll say that much. It is pretty hard stuff, a lot of it out of my league. But then again, this is kind of like a mod made for people a lot more familiar with Pokemon. The only reason I was able to keep up is because this is my favorite game in the entire series. But I admit, I kind of get a feeling like if this was in like a modern Pokemon game, or just a main series game in general, I would be struggling and having a lot less fun than I am here. So I am appreciative if I had to play a hard version of a Pokemon game, it was here. But even then, it's not like stereotypically hard. At least during the main adventure. It was only like in the post-game where I really felt like I was struggling too much. So I think like the main game still does a good job of like adding a little more challenge for people who are already familiar with this game, but not to the point of like some of the hardcore Nuzlockers or those parts of the Pokemon community that you may be more familiar with. I am definitely not in that league, and it's probably just because of the team I was using, but I'll admit Ore Calcium kind of felt like that, and that's why I was content just leaving it as is after the few attempts I made. And heck, even with Mount Battle, I'll admit I kind of got burnt out. There's multiple factors involved and why it took so long to finish up this series. The difficulty of those last 10 battles, especially that final one, were a factor in it all. So I get the feeling that like this series has been going on long enough to the point of even I'm starting to feel it. Still enjoying my time with the game in general, but I had to take more breaks in between recording sessions, especially when I would have to spend like multiple recording sessions just on one single battle. I mentioned it in the community post, but it doesn't hurt to bring it up again here. That final battle, I have over 3 hours. It was like 3 hours and 20-ish minutes of raw footage just trying to beat stars in Mount Battle. So if you really can figure out why the series has been so stagnated towards the end of the post-game, that is why. But hey, I did it. I actually completed the post-game of an ORA game. Feels way too long between just like how, technically when I first played through the vanilla Pokemon Coliseum for you all, I never got around to the post-game. I was going to get around to the post-game in the randomizer for Pokemon Coliseum, but then like those technical issues happened to the point I would have had to replay so much in the game just to start recording again that didn't really feel worth it for the post-game. So I guess if there's any game that I'm able to achieve that in, it would be here in Pokemon XD. Pretty much one of the highlights of the Pokemon series for me personally. You know, I kind of got a glance of what our last few Shadow Pokemon had, but I didn't pay too close attention, so let's do a quick rundown before we end things off. Nothing too crazy here with Lugia. Now that I'm kind of realizing that Psycho Boost is supposed to be Deoxys' signature move, I believe, I actually appreciate just what makes putting it on Lugia for XD so special. Because I'm pretty sure I had this move in the vanilla XD, But it kind of just shows why it's so cool when you actually give Pokemon weird and zany moves when you purify them. And partly why I was a little... And partly why I was more lenient, even if I was vocal about it in XG. Things like Dragon Hammer on things that don't really resemble hammers. I get it. It still fits the vibe of XD, because XD is all about, like, making it worth purifying the Shadow Pokemon by giving you stuff that you normally wouldn't have access to. Yes. Case in point, we have a Purified Deoxys right here with the move to just rub it home. And I guess this is it. This is the last Shadow Pokemon of the entire game. Shadow Pokemon no longer exists in the world of Ori. Well, outside of this Purified Mew having Shadow Madness for no particular reason. So you got Sacred Fire, matching up with the Shadow move that it has, Tri-Attack, matching up with the Shadow colors it had, Brave Bird, and Aurora Beam. Pretty solid moveset for a Ho-Ho. I gotta double check something though. Oh yeah, for some reason I always thought Ho-Ho was more of a special attacker than a physical attacker, until I added some random competitive videos into my Make the Workday Go By Faster playlist. And there's the one that was talking about Ho-Ho in particular, and mentioning of how much it specialized in physical attack, which like, that doesn't make sense, but like, no, I see it. That high physical attack is like glaring me right in the face, so it's kind of hard to deny it. Well, I'll try to account my post-game thoughts. Let's talk to Eddie in particular. Oh, you snagged the Ho-Ho, which we believe to be the last Shadow Pokemon. That means you rescue all the Shadow Pokemon Cypher's created. I mean, it doesn't mean too much because you said it before, so why don't we just pull up the Shadow Monitor and take a look for ourselves? All the Pokemon that we've caught throughout our adventure. Plus it gives me some places to like add post-commentary for final thoughts and reflections. It might be a little confusing editing, but maybe I can just do the commentary now while I'm sitting for the credits, even if I'm gonna just splice it elsewhere. If not, I at least have this as a backup. Pardon me if I'm a little repetitive of what I've said earlier on, but I want to make sure I don't forget about anything. I can't thank you all enough for your patience throughout this whole series. XD is a game well and dear to my heart, so the opportunity to be able to play XD in a new light means an awful lot. Sure, like I've mentioned a couple times, especially in the later parts of the post-game, I do feel like I got a little burned out during the capture of post-game content, but it doesn't take away from my enjoyment of the game in general. Video creation just has been in a weird place as of late, as my dreams and ambitions from childhood were always more with game design. Now that I'm finally starting to get the hang of it, my interest in a lot of other things have kind of dwindled a little. Not completely, but noticeably. Not to mention how hard some of the stuff in the endgame here was, or should I say post-game in particular. That, I still feel convinced that contributed more to the burnout, more than anything. And this is hindsight is kind of more a convoluted way to say it's gonna be a long time between this and my next video series proper. For one, there are some loose ends that I want to tie up. One in particular that keeps coming back to the back of my mind is Dawn of Jin. Well, my days with modding and the ROM hacking scene are essentially done. Before I never look back on Dawn of Jin again, I did want to make those videos showing off the dialogue changes for people who don't have the ability to experience that themselves. I can't promise when that'll be a thing, but you'll likely see that before anything new in terms of playthroughs. There's a couple other miscellaneous videos that I have in mind as well, unless I've uploaded already. There's one in particular, completely unrelated, that I would like to upload to fill up the time. Streaming is always an option. I don't really feel confident in committing to a schedule in the moment, but now that a lot of my major work with Pokemon XG is done, I feel a lot more confident that they'll be streamed a little more frequently, so this channel doesn't go completely wasted by the wayside. On a tangent of streaming, I am also considering going back to some of my stream VODs and editing them down to videos, whether they be playthroughs or like a stream highlight. In fact, like, you probably see that before I do a new video series in general. I don't know. Outside of streaming here and there, I'm gonna need some time to think about what I want to do next, and more importantly, if I want to do anything next. Because right now I want to put more of the focus on my ambitions in game design than with video editing. But I still don't want to give up on the video editing completely. It's just that if I do pick up a new video series, I'm going to need a lot of time to prep it, because I would want to assure that it doesn't have too many breaks in between. And in order to do that, I apparently need much more of a backlog in videos than I've done with this series. So, who knows? I guess the point I'm getting at is that beyond, like, the fact you'll probably see me doing more game design stuff either here or on a new channel, and miscellaneous videos / streams here and there, I'm not promising anything at the moment. And it'll be much easier for you to get an update if you keep tabs on my YouTube community tab or socials than it would be for me to try to predict the future here. Because for right now, I want to take it easy and take a little bit of a rest from the videos per se. Not completely, but I do want to leave my doors open rather than try to promise and give you an idea of what's going on in said future. Alright, now I think it's more than plenty of time to pass things off to the live commentary self. That's it. Deoxys is the last one on here. All the shadow Pokemon have been snagged away and purified. And I think that will do adieu for our adventures. Who knows? The possibility of coming back to RA someday isn't a zero, but as my dreams and ambitions stretch further and further beyond just YouTube and the creation of making videos, it does become a little less likely by the day. But who knows? A spark of inspiration could come from the most vague of sources. An itching of nostalgia, the discovery of how to actually beat frickin' RA Coliseum, an update from Stars, like making a completely new version of this game. Nothing's a complete impossibility, but I think it's safe to say that our time RA has come to an end. I've been Jackie K. I know this has been a long, drawn out process going through Pokemon XG Next Gen, but I appreciate you sticking through it all with me. Through the beginning, through the intermissions that we've had along the way, through the hardships, through some of the post-game. I'm glad you're able to come here with me. And even if exactly when I'll come back and say welcome back to blank is a bit unclear at this time, I hope to see you all later. If not for videos, then for something where I express my creative endeavors. Until that day comes, I'll see you all later. Take care.